Hello everyone, I'm Carolyn from Tranquil Mentor, and welcome to our channel. Today we're going to be making a Call of Duty perk drink machine for Jugger-Nog out of a Coca Cola mini fridge that we found at Goodwill for $10. It's glossy and everything, so I'm going to need to take that down, that shine down, but I've taped up all the important areas here so that paint doesn't get inside the fan. I disconnected the fan, and I have paper inside there, the brown craft paper. It'll have to be sanded because we're going to need to take the Coca Cola logo and bottle off. So I'm going to use 220 extra fine. That will take the shine off and get it prepped for printing. And what I'm going to do is spray paint. I've worked this, or actually sanded this up pretty well. I'm just going to go all the way through and get the rest of it with the shine off. And now I've taken some painter's tape and just made a line around, because if you see, the top piece is white. So we're going to mimic this as much as we can. And I've taped all the way around with the blue painter's tape. And what we'll do is we'll spray paint the top of that. Now before we do that, you can see it leaked a little bit because I tried it and it does still kind of work. I took just brown paper bag material and painted, protected the bottom and taped that on. And then I used this Painter's Touch Rust-Oleum white. It's flat. And I do get a bottom coat on this and thought I could get away with white, and it really didn't match for what I want. So later I'll go and I'll put Rust-Oleum Antique White over that. I had to redo it, but I did get the white pretty good here, and I did get a good base coat for it so that it would cover up everything. So that wasn't too bad of a thing. And then, I didn't like the way it looked, so I bought the antique white. And then I'm using the frog tape. I like the frog tape. You don't have to. I mean, the painter's tape is good too. But with the frog tape, I can get it sealed down pretty well, and it doesn't take off the other paint. So I tend to use that a lot when I'm trying to seal up an edge, and it actually works really well. And it's multi-surface, so it's really good for the plastic. And then I had this from Dollar General. It's premium spray enamel, and it is, I'm trying to remember the color. I think it's just called Premium Red. Let's see. Yes, Premium Red. I do get a base coat on here of the Premium Red, and I did tape up the handle too because I wanted that to stay chromy. What happened here is it's not the right color either, and then I didn't get all of the white lettering off. So what John did was he went back through and he had an orbital sander, and he just took the orbital sander after this dried. I let it dry overnight. And he took the orbital sander and he sanded it up. Now this is some 3D print from Thingiverse. It's a mini fridge, and I enlarged the pieces and printed out. I wanted a front piece that looked like the vending machine with the coin slots and everything. So I enlarged that, and then I did find this brick red, which I thought was the perfect color. I think it really matches it, and I'm glad I changed it. And that's that Rust-Oleum. And then I 3D printed this from a file that I got on Thingiverse. I'm going to use it for the front of the vending machine. And we'll use this brick red paint for that also. The Rust-Oleum paint has that new custom 5-in-1 spray, which I thought was a little different, but it was okay. I mean, the paint's still the same. And then I just coated this. It only really took one coat, so that's what was really nice about it. The only thing was the little opening. I probably should have cleaned it better on the little dial that on the 5-in-1, and then it probably wouldn't have clogged. So I gave this a couple of coats, probably could have done with one. And then I'm 3D printing from that file from Thingiverse the coin slot and the little pieces for the doors and the little lever that you turn when you want to get your drink out. And I printed that up because less supports the coin slot. I printed that facing up, and there was only a little bit of supports, and then a little bit of supports under the letter, and I used white PLA for that. I have some white or metallic spray paint. I had that on hand. It's from Dollar General and it's a chrome color. I just taped these. I wanted it to look very much like chrome and with that 50-ish look. And so I taped them down and then spray painted a coat. Just one coat did the trick. It was perfect. I didn't spray paint the back because I felt that that was sufficient and it came out the way that I wanted. And I've got my trusty Gorilla Glue and I'm trying to make it last. I just love this stuff. I do have another bottle of it, but I am just trying to get every last drop. It's like liquid gold to me. And I'm taking my toothpick and I'm just going to get some glue on the sides. And I'll just put it all around the sides. That's the only parts that need to be glued in. And I'm going to put it around the inside of this, and then I'll put it on the outside of the actual coin slot. And you'll notice I'm just putting that on, spreading it on with the toothpick. The toothpick helps me not get too much blobs on there, so I learned it kind of keeps me detailed. Then we'll just slide this in and press it down and keep it on a flat surface, and then I'll hold on to that. Now I let these pieces dry overnight. It probably doesn't have to be, but I've just had the best luck with letting things dry, being patient and letting it dry. And each part of the project has certain steps that I have to take, and I just take my time. And the Gorilla Glue, what I love about the Gorilla Glue is that it is repositionable for quite a bit of time. So if something is crooked and you want to move it, you still have time to do that. And then here's our lever. I'm using my toothpick again, just so that I get a tiny bit on there and I don't have blobs everywhere. And then there's like a divot in that piece, so I'm taking that and I'm lining that up, and that's our lever. And we pull that when we want the bottle to come out. And then I'm taking my time getting that into place. I could even turn it if I want to. And now what we're going to do is rough this up. All the paint is done. I've got the colors that I want. I did go and get an antique white spray paint. I will link that below. I just retaped and did the antique white color because it's more of an ivory. I just liked the way that it looked. I felt like it looked more like the actual machine. So I've scraped that up or scratched it up a lot, scratched up the edges, and then I took that 100 again and went through the vending machine part and just roughed that up, took some of the paint off the edges, made lines in it just to make it look old and rugged and rusty, and took some of that paint. It does show the white through, which is fine. And then I have Acrylology red oxide, which I use for rusting a lot of times. It's from Dollar Tree. It's a very thin paint, but you get a lot of it. And then I have my Folk Art metallic paint that I'm going to use to make the rust spots on here. And there's quite a few rust spots. So I'm going to take my foam brush, and this is just a work of art here. You just take your time and go through the little stages and learn and see what the brush is going to do, change brushes. And because we're going over the red with the metallic paint and it's acrylic, it's going to take some time. And then here I want to get that shine off of that little knob because we're still going to use it to open the refrigerator, or our vending machine, I should call it. And then as I go through, I'm trying to just learn and see what it's going to look like, how I can make this rust. And I've got some Acrylology deep brown, and that came in handy too. And I've got my fan brush, and I'm just taking little layers off, and it does need to dry. If you keep trying to go over, I had to keep coming back to this and letting everything dry because I was retaking the paint right back off, so it wasn't really getting to what I wanted. So I learned that I had to wait through the process and just take a little bit of sponges and foam brushes and just figure out what it was going to look like. And then I'm taking my brush again with the brown paint, putting a few dabs in just to try to get the idea and see what I can do as far as getting that to really look like rust. So I did take a look at some inspiration pieces to try to find out how to actually, what this rust actually looks like and how to make it look aged. And I'm going back through again with my fan brush as these layers dry and just putting a little bit of kind of brown scratches on it. It's just much easier, as I was saying, that if this is dry, if each layer is dry, it's much easier to work with. You're not taking the paint back off. It's just a much easier way. Walk away for a little while, do something else. And then I've got my Aleene's tacky glue here, and I've got my rust spots to where I wanted them. You can tell they look quite different from before. So I'm taking my Aleene's tacky glue, and I'm just getting it around that rust spot. And you'll see a lot of silver there now because the silver shows through first, and then the rust goes around it from what I've seen. So I've got my Aleene's tacky glue, and I've got some ground cinnamon, which I see that it makes rust look very real. So I'd put a larger paper under there, like maybe parchment paper, because this does make a huge mess. And then I'm sprinkling it around those edges and just trying to shake it off, and then also taking my finger and moving it around a little bit just so I can get to that area. And then I put some more glue down there, and then I'm just taking the cinnamon and plopping that on there, and then just rubbing it a little bit to where I want that silver to show through. And I really feel like that is starting to look a lot like rust. And then I'll go through and I'll finish up the others, and I just sporadically made a few spots where I thought it would show rust. And then this is what it looks like. A lot of the cinnamon got all over it. I put it on the hinges too to make those look rusty. And then a lot of the cinnamon stayed and made it look really old and rusty and messy. So now I'm in my workshop here. I've got my Dollar General spray, and it's a clear spray. I gave it a few coats. I went all around, and just to get that cinnamon sealed on there. And it took 3 coats to where I felt like it was going to stay and to look real. This is our vending piece that we 3D printed, and I'm lining this up. I want to make sure that the bottom stays straight because I still want to be able to open this without this scraping. And then also at the top, we want to be able to put our letters on and get as much room at that top antique white piece there. And that's where our letter's going to go for our drink Jugger-Nog and everything. So we'll line this up, and with this Gorilla Glue, as I was saying, what I love about it is if you get this on here crooked, you've got time. You can look at it, you can put some pressure on it, you can put something heavy on top of it and let it dry. And I did let this dry for overnight. I know that the project took a long time, but I did it in pieces and allowed everything to dry. I was going to, because the front of the refrigerator is curved, I was going to try to put a little bit of silicone, but that Gorilla Glue was so good I didn't even need to do it. And then you'll see too, it's on there a little bit crooked, and as it's drying I go through and I keep leveling it out and lining it up so I have time. Here we are in Cricut Design Space. I'm going to use my Cricut to cut out these letters. And this Jugger-Nog is I'm trying to remember the name of the font, and I could see that it's up there. I think it's called Cooper 5. And I will link that below. And I just feel like it's perfect. So I have some vinyl, and it's brick red, and I'm going to cut the letters out of my vinyl. What I want to do is isolate this Jugger-Nog out, and Made with Real Eggs, and that's a good nog, by the way, is the font Anton, and I'll link that below as well. So I'm going through on my right hand side panel, and I'm hiding everything because I want to make sure when I cut out the Jugger-Nog that it is. I took measurements and I wanted it to be just the right size. And then I'll go back and cut out the other letters when I get a good idea of this, if the size of this Jugger-Nog. It's just a matter of taking measurements. And then here we are, we're going to choose a 12 by 12 mat. Then I've got my brick red in there, or red for Cricut. And that's how small it's going to print out. It's or cut out. I always say print out. And then we're hooking up to the Cricut itself with the USB. I have it hooked up with the USB. Then we're going to tell Cricut that we're cutting vinyl, and we're going to click on that. And then I have some directions to follow here. Load my fine point blade, and then the button will be blinking on my Cricut machine, and I'll click that. And then here we are quickly in Affinity Designer. And for that coin plate, I wanted to be able to, or near the coin slot, I wanted to be able to put some graphics on there. So I took some measurements of the area, and then it was just a matter of making the bottle myself and making that in Affinity Designer. And then I have some squares set up that you can see as I click on them. That's what I did, squares and rectangles, to make that graphic. And then I had 10 cents that in white, and I bought that in. I thought that would be perfect. And then as I printed that out, I coated it with triple thick, and that made it nice so that it would stay. And then I 3D printed that. I designed that in Tinkercad, and then I went forward and designed it in Fusion. I did have some trouble with this, so when I made these files, it ended up being my PLA was a problem. So I went through, I loaded up some more PLA with a pearl type or silky PLA. It was composite white, and then I did 20% infill on that so that I would have, it would be see-through. I didn't have any see-through PLA, or transparent PLA, so I used that. And then I painted that piece with just my metallic paint, the silver that I had. Now the metallic, the part that in, the middle piece that I have in my hand now, that is spray painted. So I'm sanding that down. I accidentally spray painted everything, the whole entire thing, which that was the only way that I could actually get through with it. So I just sandpapered that down so that I would get adherence. I just went through with my little toothpick, went and put little blobs on there to get it glued, and then I'm gluing that on the top. That's going to be the front of my sign. You'll see I put those together, and then I have a back that I made in Tinkercad. This is an emblem that I'll link to the file below, the Jugger-Nog emblem. I'm painting that because I realized I am using antique white. I'm painting that because I realized that the graphic isn't just all one color. The emblem's not all one color. Also, as I'm painting that, I'll tell you too that I used my little pencil box, my Grogu pencil box, for weight, because it has a lot of weight in it, and I wanted that to dry, the Gorilla Glue to dry my light together, and I gave that a long time to dry, and then I glued the back of it on too. This needed quite a few coats because it's an acrylic paint over a spray paint. And then here's how we're going to, this is from the LED lights are from Temu, and they had an inline switch, which I thought was great. I want to get these lights, I just kind of curl them up and put them through the back hole. It took a bit because it kept trying to come out, and later on what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to use some white tape, and I'm going to tape that into the back so that it doesn't keep coming out, because it kept coming out. So I'll use that white tape to keep it held in. And then we'll let that set and dry. Again, probably quite a few hours And a lot of this stuff I just came back to quite a few hours later, maybe 8 hours later, and just let it dry because it's just so much easier. But I'm sure it would dry in a few hours to be able to handle it. And then I have my back piece of the emblem, and I'm going to get that glued up. I've got my Gorilla Glue. I did put this on upside down, but I was able to turn it around, and this is the right way with it pointing down, with the point pointing down. And just goes to show you that you do have some leeway when you use the Gorilla Glue to, if you make a mistake. And then here's our light. I've X marked the spot of where I want it. I took some measurements and I wanted to have it in the middle. So I'm taking my hot glue gun, and that's all it took to get this on. And I'm just going to glue it right in place and hold on to it for a little bit because we'll let that glue dry. And I'm pressing it and holding it. And then there's a few gaps back here, so I'm just taking my glue gun and gluing them up just to get that on nice and tight. And I just love the way that that came out. That's going to look so great. And we'll let that dry for a little while. And here we have it. Look at that light. I'm just so excited of the way that this turned out. And we've got our "That's a Good Nog," our 10-cent sign all cut out on the Cricut with the vinyl. And then our graphic from Affinity Designer that's printed out and coated with triple thick. And just everything rusty, and just showing you the side, how the side came out. And that tape really did a good job separating the two colors out, the frog tape and the painter's tape. And then we're going to open this up, and here you have it, our Jugger-Nog inside of our vending machine. And I used some bear wax, some brown bear wax, and just made it look real old and cruddy inside and dirty. And then the perk bottles that I made, I will link a video below of how I made those. I made those a while back, and I'm just loving it. I'm gonna open it again and just show you. Absolutely love the way this turned out, and the light looks awesome too. And I have a puck light, a Dollar Tree puck light underneath, and a little bit of red cellophane, and just some cotton in there from an old pillow. And then here you have it at night. Totally awesome. And the other bottles, you can see them lit up and how they came out. It's just great. I'm just so excited about everything and all how this came out. It's going to be such an awesome keepsake for our Call of Duty gamers in the house. We'll open this again just to show you. It's so cool. If you make a Call of Duty vending machine, share the inspiration and tag us on Instagram at Tranquil_Mentor, or visit us on Facebook at Tranquil Mentor. And if you're already one of our subscribers, welcome back, and thanks for watching our video today. And if you're not a subscriber, welcome to our channel. And if you would be so kind to subscribe and like our video, it helps YouTube notice us a little bit more, and it supports our channel and helps us to grow. And as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.